got a book of matches. I've got a can of kerosene. I got some bad ideas. Not having a voice and trying to record 2 podcasts in one day. Jake, what's going on, man?
Oh, also not fully having a voice and trying to record 2 podcasts in one day.
You really wanted the Columbia House Party line involving you and me, didn't you?
I did. I thought we would actually hit the rhyme scheme for the first time, but yeah, that's all right.
Instead, we had just such an obvious bad idea.
Our truths,
to fit in with the theme of this episode. It's
time of year too. Just really
look right now. To give you a little background on today's episode, I've been pretty sick this week. Tried to drink my way through it. Lost my voice in the process. Have giant bags under my eyes. That's always the case. I'm basically in Skiba cosplay.
It is fun that for this album that neither of us have our full voices. I don't think I needed to leave your house at 4 a.m. yesterday.
Probably not.
That seems like it was.
I probably didn't need to be up till 5 cleaning.
Yeah.
People probably aren't listening to us, Columbia House Party, to hear us complain about being sick.
No.
Or some degree of hungover. They're listening to us because they want us to talk about Alkaline Trio, who among a group of maybe 2 or 3 other groups are the impetus for this entire podcast.
Not only the impetus for this podcast, arguably the impetus for our entire friendship.
Yeah, it's up there.
I feel like we became friends arguing about this band on Twitter.
Yeah, ironically enough, after we stopped working together.
Yes.
After you had left
very
the place
true.
we worked together. And it's like, oh yeah, now we can be friends. But Alkaline Trio is a big one. Arguing over the ranking of Alkaline Trio albums on Twitter between me, you, Drew Fairservice, Brian, some other people step in. Sean Gentili, maybe Sam Sutherland gets in sometimes.
That was sort of like a big online moment in my mind. It was just like finding out that other people had strong takes.
I don't know if the timing is accurate on this, but I connected to the Tulo news in my head.
It's that time frame.
Yeah,
sure.
like I can picture the desk that I was at in the place that I lived.
Yeah,
arguing about it, and I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was 2015 though.
Yeah, those are the only 2 associations I have with living there.
Huh.
It's like, oh yeah, I was doing a DeLon Wright breakdown when the Jays got Tulo, and I remember arguing about Alkaline Trio. And scanning through, going through my iTunes to make sure I would looking at the songs and being like, wait, is this how I rank them? I gotta think
if
deeply.
That's the case, which I believe you it is. I was at Sneaky D's karaoke when the Jays got Tulo, so I must have been drinking at Sneaky D's on my phone, arguing about Alkaline Trio on Twitter.
If it was the same, maybe it wasn't. Maybe they're just close. They were close.
Let's say it is. It's a better story.
Yes, we all argued about Alkaline Trio. Got to Troy Tulowitzki. Jake sang about it. I finished up a piece on the idiosyncratic DeLon Wright, and here we are, 4.5 years later. Nothing was the same, except probably your karaoke choices are the same.
Yeah, they haven't changed that much. But
what do you wouldn't dare do an Alkaline Trio, would you?
If they had it, I've never seen one there. I would love to. Our friend Jacob Kramer and I do a pretty ripping edition of Fat Lip.
Yes,
I'm partial to some Harvey Danger as well.
Of course. I rewatched American Pie and American Pie 2 recently. Flagpole Sitta features heavily in American Pie 1.
It sure does. It still slaps too.
I had Baker Mayfield in one of my fantasy football leagues this year, and the team's name was Where Have All the Mary Bakers Gone?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Speaking of, another part, I guess not the origin story, but I went back. So when I prep for these episodes, I'll search a band's name or an album's name for tweets from people that I followed just to see if we've ever had conversations before, refresh myself a little bit. I came across one.
Oh, no.
That I was really proud of, and you are the only person who liked it. So this is from 2015.
Oh, no.
Also 2015. These are the names
you can delete your tweets. You can't delete your likes.
These are the names of my 4 fantasy baseball teams that year.
Oh,
I found a Wade, Chisenhall on Black, Mercer Me, and Kick Brox. I am upset with myself that I didn't do Lost and Rendoned.
That's good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
He wasn't really that prevalent.
Yeah,
at
it was
time.
early. So anyway, there is some Alkaline Trio connection.
Lost and Rendoned is amazing.
It's great. I might fire that one back up this year.
I think you should.
Yeah, that's very good. So
really good.
A lot of Alkaline Trio in the history of you and I.
I think so.
This is nice.
Yeah. It's a little trip down memory lane.
Yeah, maybe it's made me feel better. I feel all warm and fuzzy now, and it's not just the soup.
I definitely feel warm, but that's fine.
All right. Another connection that I personally have to Alkaline Trio is so I have 2 younger brothers. The youngest one unfortunately inherited all of my music tastes, and
Okay.
just like the Used are his favorite band, and he just
Right.
basically whatever CDs I left in the car, he played. My middle brother and I don't have a lot of overlap. He's much more into metal and hardcore, and like even in high school was essentially like Shai Hulud and stuff like that. It was not where I was. But Alkaline Trio were like the one band we had overlap, because he was just like goth enough, and Alkaline Trio are like just hard enough.
Yeah.
And like so dripping.
Played into the Satanism thing.
They're just like, it's almost to the point of satire, just how much early Alkaline Trio is just like dripping in that aesthetic.
Especially around the time of this album that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of red and black suits.
So Alkaline Trio have been a favorite band of mine since like high school.
I was thinking of that too, in terms of like, of the bands I still listen to consistently today, they've got to be like one of the older ones. Like I've been listening to this band now for like 17 years,
Yeah.
which is
And like
crazy.
we've obviously talked about older albums that we loved a lot and stayed with us, but there aren't very many of those that we've touched on yet, or that I could think of coming up, where it's like been a consistent listen. Like they
Yeah.
produce new music, and with one exception that we'll get into, like the albums are usually at least decent.
Yeah, and like this is sort of how I wanted to sort of bring us into it, that I don't know if obsession is the right word, but like I loved this band in
Yeah.
high school. And like I never said that they were my favorite band, not for my usual like I was afraid of not being cool reasons, just because I don't know why. They just never tracked as like a quote unquote favorite band. But now looking back on it, I'm pretty sure they were.
Yeah, you can wreck on a favorite band.
Yeah, I think so. And like I remember very clearly hearing, I was in Buffalo. I must have been like 14 or 15. I picked up a copy of the self-titled Alkaline Trio record, the collection of B-sides. And like, I think song 2, the second song on that album is This Is Getting Over You. And I remember that I was in like the back of my parents' car. We were driving back from Toronto. And I remember that song like hit me. And I was like, this is the band. This is the band I've wanted to sort of be into my entire life, kind of thing. And they're also a weird band in the sense that like I don't go back to them consistently, but then I will, and I'm like, oh, I'm just listening to Alkaline Trio for the next 6 months.
Yeah, or as I did this week, I'm going to listen to everything they've ever done.
Exactly.
In preparation for an episode.
Yeah.
And under the guise of this is work, I have to listen to all this Alkaline Trio. There are obviously a lot of options with a band like Alkaline Trio then. I feel like we probably could have gone 4 different directions with this album,
yeah.
and people would have been like, okay, that makes sense. What we did instead was we put it to a vote with our Patreon supporters. Jake, tee us up, man. Which Alkaline Trio album are we
So
doing?
later in this show, we're going to spend a good amount of time today debating our Alkaline Trio album rankings, as we said.
Oh boy.
As we said, is our sort of genesis of this show. So I was very happy, not to spoil things for later on today, that in the voting results on Patreon, the best Alkaline Trio album, in my opinion, was chosen to be talked about. So today we're talking about the 2003 classic, Good Morning.
I've got a book of matches, I've got a can of kerosene, I got some bad ideas involving you and me. I don't blame you for walking away. I touched myself at thoughts of flames. I shat the bed, I laid there in it, thinking of you, wide awake for days, wide awake for days. And I found you tongue-tied in my twisted little brain. You couldn't crack a smile, I didn't catch your name. I don't blame you for walking away. I'd do the same if I saw me. I swear it's not contagious, and for short steps we can erase this. Step 1, slit my throat. Step 2, blame my blood. Step 3, cover me in dirty sheets and run laughing out of the house. Step 4, stop off at Edgebrook Creek and rinse your crimson hands. You took me hostage, you made your demands. I couldn't meet him, so you cut off my fingers one by one. One by one.
so good.
It's so good. This album's so fucking good.
Yeah, we'll get to it in the content section, but like that is probably a top 5 Alkaline Trio song for me.
For sure it is.
And like also as someone who has a history of, maybe dating people who aren't very nice to them. It's the imagery conjured is great.
This wasn't the first Alkaline Trio album I heard, but I think it was the first album that came out of theirs after I got into them. Because I got into them in that period between From Here to Infirmary and Good Morning.
Good time to get on board.
Absolutely. And I remember
Get in, losers.
I remember very clearly, I forget where I was going. I was going on a trip. And when I used to go on trips, I would buy Spin magazines in the airport to read on the plane. Littered throughout this issue were like jokes about Alkaline Trio, and I didn't really know who they were at this point. And I remember the one that sticks in my head, there's one that was like, just how many people are in the Alkaline Trio anyway? And so I was like, oh, this is a band of 3 guys that must sound like there's more guys in the band, which they don't at all.
No, they sound like a 3-piece.
Yeah. So
guitar, bass, drums.
Retrospect, it was very odd. But I remember that's how I heard about them. And then I think it was must have been the days of LimeWire, because I remember I burned like a CD of some of their just like random
How dare
Alkaline
you?
Trio songs. I know. Just random Alkaline Trio songs I could find.
Jake the Pirate.
I was a pirate. Dime a Dozen was my shit.
I'm not surprised by the vote. We put 4 albums up.
Yeah.
Good Morning got 54%. All 4 of the ones that we put up got some votes. One of those was just my vote for Agony and Irony. As I tweeted out when we put the call for votes out, do you want to hear us talk about a good Alkaline Trio album or the one that came out like in the middle of the worst, most depressed time of my life and I have the most sad personal attachment to? You guys didn't pick that one, so you don't get those stories today.
Hey.
Just
teasing them.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know that we'll do an Agony and Irony episode.
We're definitely going to do another Alkaline Trio episode at some point. Like, look at us.
Yeah.
So we're not going to just do one.
This is the 4th Alkaline Trio album. It strikes me as a little atypical that the 4th album from a band is A, the one that everyone wanted us to do, and B, that it's also probably the most interesting.
I think so.
It's kind of an odd time for a band that has been together, other than the drummer Carousel, has been together for 9 albums. It's just like, yeah, one of the ones in the middle was really good and the most interesting. And
listening to it today, it still sounds very unique, especially in the like pop punk, even though they were like edging closer to just punk at this point.
Yeah.
But
or emo core or something like that. I don't know what you would
call it. But like
I'm so like in my own head now about calling any genre of music the wrong thing.
Yeah, I feel like just listening to this album this week in prep for today, like usually when I listen to Alkaline Trio now, it's just like I put artist on shuffle and just like listen to a bunch of random songs. So it's been a while since I actually listened to this album front to back, and I was surprised at not only how well it holds up, but how fresh it sounds. Like if someone put this out today, it would be huge. Or if not like huge selling in the scene, so to speak.
Yeah, that would be great. We're going to talk all about Good Morning after this. All right, so Good Morning comes out in 2003. Jake, take us through where they are in this moment. What's taken us to Good Morning?
Alkaline Trio formed in 1996. The trio was Matt Skiba, Rob Doran, and Glenn Porter. Skiba on guitar and vocals, Doran on bass, Porter on drums. They released the Sundials EP in 1997. Immediately after that was released, Rob Doran left the band and was replaced by Dan Andriano, which would be cement 2/3 of the Alkaline Trio throughout the rest of their career. They released the 4 Year Lungs Only EP in 1998, followed later that year by the release of their debut album God Damn It on Asian Man Records, which was probably the other one in the option for us to do today.
Because it rules.
Because it rules and is like a seminal piece of pop punk history. Maybe I'll Catch Fire was released in 2000, also on Asian Man Records. Also in 2000s, they released the aforementioned self-titled collection of their first EPs and some B-sides. They signed to Vagrant Records after the release of Maybe I'll Catch Fire and released From Here to Infirmary in 2001. Had 2 singles on it, Private Eye and Stupid Kid. Stupid Kid had a very stupid music video that I remember watching a lot in high school, and it sounded like this.
Now things that used to make me smile. One of them was you for for just a little while. You left me for dead so far away. I replace you with fear and shame. You'll be happy on the day I die. Remember when I said I love you? Well, yeah, I take it back. I was just a stupid kid back then. I take back every word that I said. Remember when I said I love you? Well, again, I take it back. I was just a stupid kid back then. I take back every word that I said.
That is the Alkaline Trio song I most associate with high school.
Yeah.
Like driving around having that song on.
Well, I feel like it was even then, like From Here to Infirmary is pretty pop. But
Yeah.
like that song is the most.
Yeah,
like,
not as
pop
pop
punk.
as Where They Go.
No, but I would
But at
like
that point, yeah, that's
90s pop or
yeah,
early
that-
2000s pop punk. Like that's that's all
or
of
alt
it.
rock, wherever you want to draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was their that up to that point, I think that's the song that most could have got them crossover appeal.
Yeah, I think so. Right before they made From Here to Infirmary, Glenn Porter left the band and was replaced by Mike Fellemly. He was only in the band for basically the recording of From Here to Infirmary and it seems like a couple days after. He was then very briefly replaced by Adam Willard, who I did not know played in Alkaline Trio. Adam Willard, of course, of Rocket from the Crypt and now Against Me. Adam Willard replaced Mike for a bit. Adam is in the Private Eye music video. And then he was replaced by Derek Grant, who joined as a permanent replacement. Derek Grant told Rock Sound TV in an oral history of Good Morning that Dan and I had known each other for a long time from running into each other on the road. Word started getting around that Alkaline Trio might be looking for a new drummer, and I get a phone call from their manager, and it kind of went from there. They invited me to come to Chicago. This was in 2001 to rehearse. I guess it was sort of like an audition, but we never looked back.
Andriano had he told Rock Sound that Derek Grant was, and quote, probably the best drummer I ever heard.
Derek Grant is an insanely good drummer,
Yes.
I will say. My favorite part from the research today is there's some really great Pitchfork reviews of
course there
early
are.
Alkaline Trio records. Pitchfork's review of Maybe I'll Catch Fire starts by saying, Asian Man Records is one of the worst companies in the world. Sure, there are some huge chemical corporations that outdo them from an ethical standpoint, but Asian Man's got more than their fair share of despicable attributes. Here's our beef. These people have been clogging our nation's already diseased musical arteries with high cholesterol punk for many moons, and someone needs to stop them. When one of the few good things that can be said about your label's albums, and we're talking about Maybe I'll Catch Fire here, is that the title reflects the general public's wishes for the band, you've got a problem.
There is a deep irony in that paragraph having so many cliches and mixed metaphors
Absolutely true.
as they criticize Alkaline Trio.
They were a little more positive on From Here to Infirmary, but also, while not being positive,
Which makes sense. From here to Infirmary kind of like it starts to polish, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts to get not as far as like a Blink level of clean sound, but like it no longer sounds like
It definitely
was that a demo?
it definitely sounds like they went from Asian Man to Vagrant.
Yes, it sure does.
Pitchfork said that there's quite a bit that Alkaline Trio's music is not. It's not challenging, ambitious, or visionary. It's not clever or self-aware. It's not even terribly skillful. But what it is tasty. Pure musical junk food. Fast, greasy, and crafted for a general palate.
I would say it's clever.
Yeah, I think their lyrics are quite clever.
So, sometimes they're
Too clever.
yeah,
Little-
or just like, there's some dad jokes kind of mixed in
Yeah.
the lyrics sometimes.
I mean, that album is called From Here to Infirmary. It's
Yeah.
a dad joke.
And this one is Good Morning.
Yeah. In 2008, Andriano told UltimateGuitar.com, I would have to say From Here to Infirmary definitely started to shape things up with more of a straight up rock kind of sound. I think the previous two albums are really great, but a bit meandering. I think From Here to Infirmary is when Matt and I both realized that we wanted to tighten the screws a bit, simplify things a little, and focus more on punching you in the nuts with our rock. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Punching you in the nuts with
With
our rock.
It sounds like a Jack Black School of Rock line.
Oh boy, that's bad.
Punch me in the nuts with rock.
All
Anyway.
right, well, we're 20 minutes in and I like Alkaline Trio less than when we started. So let's turn it around here, Jake.
So Good Morning was recorded at Cello Studios with Joe McGrath and the legendary Jerry Finn producing. They basically hold up in this studio. It's a difficult part of the band's personal and professional lives.
Especially Skiba.
Skiba had been diagnosed with strep throat before recording began, and then while trying to get better and then pushing himself, he blew out his voice entirely, which is why he sounds like he's dying on the entire record.
He was also heavy on the alcohol.
Yes.
His roommate had tried to kill himself, and he was not coping with that particularly well. So if you can imagine what it might sound like when a singer has strep throat, blows out their vocals, and is also trying to drink their way through it, and is also just like at an extremely low point in their lives, it sounds like Skiba sounds on this album.
Yeah, and Alkaline Trio were also sort of known as the drinking band back at this time, and you can hear it. But a cool thing that did happen in the recording of this is they got Keith Morris from Black Flag, Circle Jerks, and Off to provide backing vocals on the album's lead single, We've Had Enough.
In the shadows with their heads hang low, you hear voices as the wind blows, asking, can't you see? Reminding you to breathe, it's only time before it catches up to you, and all your broken luck. I found a better way to get even with my memories that said we've had enough. Please turn that fucking radio off. Ain't nothing on the airwave in the despair we feel. That said we've had enough. Put welcome on the sound and turn it up. Ain't nothing on the airwave in the hatred we feel. No! This is our biggest fear. The only tunes that we hear come via antenna through the car radio. Oh, no. That said we've had enough. That said we've had enough.
The band was excited about the work they were doing, even though they weren't particularly in good spirits. Adriana was also ill throughout the recording of the record. In 2003, Skiba told Chorus FM, "Good Morning is pretty good. I mean, it took us a long time to do, and I don't think most of the people that I talk to that make records and stuff, there's always stuff that you wish you did better or maybe a little differently. I've never been able to avoid that, even with this. There's things that I wish I had done maybe a little differently, but that also comes just listening to it and living with it for so long that until it's done, you won't really hear things that way until it's too late, I guess. But I would say for the most part, I'm really happy with it." Skiba's sort of...
Skiba doesn't like talking about this one.
No. And I've noticed that Skiba takes these records much more personally than I thought.
Yeah, his ranking of them and his explanations for where they rank.
So in 2014, the band did a series of shows called Pass Live, where they played all their albums up to that point, front to back. And apparently getting through this one and getting through My Shame Is True was extremely difficult for Skiba, who does not like playing these records, which I find interesting considering everyone loves this record.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the strained vocals are like, at first people think they're a bug, but going back and listening now, it's like, it's definitely a feature. Like the fact that Skiba is clearly going through it makes some of these songs that are, you know, there are some like lighter, poppier songs, but some of the ones where there's a lot going on and he's putting it all out there, it really kind of takes you through that tension with him. And I think you know, obviously
that's what makes
you
it so compelling.
Yeah, and you obviously don't wish that on anyone. And I would much prefer to listen to this album knowing that Skiba was in a really good place and and he was super happy with it. But like you feel that in the album, and I think that's, you know, that happens a lot. That where what's going on in someone's life impacts the album, usually from a songwriting perspective, is I think what we found as we've gone through a lot of these episodes. And obviously it's there for Skiba's songwriting as well, but it's fairly unusual for you to be able to like pick it up in the sound of someone's voice too.
Yeah, and it's especially if you listen to how like Skiba's singing voice, he can't or doesn't do a lot of the things he used to do with his voice. Like he, even in Blink or in newer Alkaline Trio, his like more screaming side of things, like he tends to pull it back a little bit now. And I don't know if that's doctor's advice or if that's him just not wanting to risk blowing it out again, or it's just getting older. But I've always found it interesting how almost immediately after this record, his vocals like entirely changed almost.
Yeah.
And I will say in high school, I definitely preferred his like
screamier
and like the Good Morning I Might Be Dying vocals were a
Yeah.
choice of young Jake Goldsby.
It very much fits with what this band is at this point in time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's the next album, Crimson, where they start to go like even more into being, okay, this is a pop punk band. And, you know, they still have the goth aesthetic and some of the like to the point of parody.
Yeah, they went
like
real
vampire lyrics
real
and
in
stuff. And it's still good. Like I still like almost all of the other albums afterward. But yeah, there's a clear, I don't know, pivot might be too strong a word, but like this album, From Here to Infirmary, is when they start to refine things. This is, I think, where they got to refining themselves for the first half of their existence, and then they just go a little pop punkier from here, and it's kind of a different sound, but not like it's still obviously Alkaline Trio, but it's I mean, there's a line there after Good Morning,
and so like and I think the best songs on this album are kind of the ones where they like it still very much sounds like them, but they sort of left the established comfort zone, so to speak. I think that's also partially because of how it was recorded. Skiba said that this was the first time we had all the time in the world to make an album, and we've got money we hadn't before. More money means more times to get things right. We knew that this record would be much better, and now that we're done with it, I think it's far better than our last record. So they took that and they turned that from, you know, Stupid Kid, which is pretty standard pop punk, pop rock song, and then they made All on Black instead.
I put it all on black. No color, you're all dressed in, and a stab in the back left you bleeding on the floor, and I'm mourning the death, the recent passing of your insides. I smile in regret every time I think of how I spoke to you. What's black and white, red all over this tired bulletin. Organ donor, sweet blasphemy, my giving tree. It hasn't rained in years. I bring you this sacrificial offering of virgin ears. Leave it to me, I'll remain free from all the comfort of home. And where that is, I'm pleased as pissed to say I'll never really know. One of these days, it's gonna catch up to you, throwing looks like those around. And one of these nights, I promise to you, I'll soon be sleeping sound as soon as I leave town.
That might be my favorite Alkaline Trio song.
really.
I'm not sure it is anymore. In high school, it definitely was. I loved that song in high school.
As you're getting dressed in your plain black T-shirt and black
Correct.
jeans and
Yes, absolutely correct.
all black shoes, yeah. I'm not one to talk. I'm in head to toe black right now.
Yeah, it really influenced me going forward.
Yeah, ironically, the only thing that wasn't black was the different colors I was dyeing my hair, which is naturally almost black. That doesn't make a lot of sense. What were you doing in high school, Blake?
I also like this album though because I think obviously this was coming out right around the time, right before the time a lot of pop punk bands were starting. I guess it's like it just predates My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
So it was just before the sort of gothier, makeup heavy, emo stuff started happening where a lot of bands were singing about this kind of stuff. But it's interesting to hear Alkaline Trio, who are a bit older, like their references are a little different, and
like I said, there's some dad jokes in here.
yeah, and like it seems like it was intentional. In that Rock Sound TV interview, Andriano said, "We're no strangers to exploring the darker side of humanity and what people are capable of." And at that point, I think Matt was really just going for it. He was trying to test himself to see how dark he could take it. He was drawing from experience to get there, but I think he was just trying to push himself to an even darker place.
I had that same quote in my notes.
Hey, look at that.
Look at us, same source material. I haven't found that's come up very often.
No, it's true. But I mean, there's a song on this record about the Donner Party,
Yeah.
which is a dark story. If you don't know the story of the Donner Party, it was a family of I think they were just settlers who got lost in the snow trying to get from one place to another and ended up having to eat each other. And so that song's on the album. It's called Donner Party All Night.
Yeah, and he kind of spins that into a love song.
Yeah.
It's like there's the earlier, we talked about it a little bit in the December mailbag when we were asked songs that make us think wintry. And I go to Every Thug Needs a Lady because there's that great line about like, you know, I want to kiss you in the snow and just stay here. I promise I'll make it warmer next year. Well, then in Donner Party, he's just like, I'm fine out here. I don't want to leave. It's like there's that almost a callback to the earlier, like, hey, I use this, us lying in the snow, as this metaphor for like how we can beat it and, you know, we can get better from here. And then in Donner Party, it's like, no, we're literally going to die because
we're just
of
going
this.
to wait and die.
But you know what? Fine. And there's a ton of that, like, here is obviously my heart on my sleeve in like kind of a sarcastic and overdramatic way. But also there's like this, and I this is an Alkaline Trio staple anyway, but this album in particular, there's this openness of like, I'm going to get hurt, but like, fuck it. Let's go. Bring it.
Yeah.
Like it's worth it. We're going to try it. Come at me. Like do your worst.
Especially in Dan's songs, like Dan's songs for how dark and depressed, I think, Skiba's songs are. Dan's are mostly pretty hopeful on this album. Like 100 Stories is a little sadder. Emma was apparently, I feel like I remember hearing this years ago, that, and this could be wrong because I couldn't find this, but I remember it from like old emo forums in the mid 2000s that Emma was a Skiba song, but he couldn't sing it because of his voice. So Dan sang it. But like If We Never Go Inside is a nice song. Blue Carolina and Everything Needs a Lady are sort of these hand in hand love songs. So I've always found that contrast that they had, especially at this time, to be interesting, especially then because the next record, most of Dan's songs are really dark and not the happiest. So it's just their dynamic has always been really interesting.
I guess Andriano said that on their tour in 2011, the Revival tour, is when he said, hey, this is the only time that I sing a Skiba lyric song.
Interesting.
For Emma. So that's I wonder, was it like Skiba can't do it voice wise, or Skiba can't do it like I can't bring myself to sing about Dan's dog?
I believe it was voice wise.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff. I love in Emma, like I feel like the Alkaline Trio aesthetic is just like the heaviest on that song. Like there are obviously all the vampire references and like washing down Vicodin with a silver bullet. Obviously that's an alcohol reference, but also then later it's a wooden stake.
Yeah,
and it's, I don't know. It's
also
it's cheesy, but it works.
It's also a great couple vocal performances by
them.
them. Like the Skiba's backing vocals on the chorus are great. And I mean, Andriano's vocals are always spot on.
Yeah. I love, there are occasions where you can pick up his lisp in his singing.
Oh, especially the
love it so
especially
much.
the old on his acoustic tune on God Damn It. It's very prevalent. But
yeah, anytime he does an acoustic too.
Yeah.
Like he's, you know, he does acoustics of even some of their newer stuff. Your favorite song, Love, Love, Kiss, Kiss, there's an acoustic of it out there.
Speaking of acoustic, I don't know if most iconic is the right word, but I think a song that stuck with Alkaline Trio fans the most, especially in like 2003 when everyone was 15 for this band, Blue in the Face, which we can't talk about this album and not talk about Blue in the Face. I think it's the most heavy on the sort of coffin death symbolism, and it
brings us full circle back to This Could Be Love.
Yes, it does.
And to my point earlier of Bring It On, this is gonna hurt like hell, but it's all, I'm just leaning into it. It brings us full circle on that in the most fucking dramatic way. It just like with also like the best closing verse and line.
And there is also a demo of Blue in the Face that is not acoustic, and I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I have.
I'm
really excited.
So this is what that sounds like.
That I came clean with you, no longer fine. I'm no longer running. I thought that I found myself under something new, just one more line. I repeat over and over again till I feel in the face with a choking regret. I talk in circles on you on my bed. Can't say I'm blaming it all when you kept it all inside. When you left that night. fell like mercury to hell. Somehow we lost our heads for the last time. And all that followed fell like mercury to hell. Somehow we lost our heads for the last time. And I don't dream since I went sleeping, and I haven't slept since I met you. You can't breathe without confidence anytime. Well, now look at what do you say? You're coughing on mine. You're coughing on mine. You're coughing on mine.
I think they made the right choice.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have liked that song.
Right? Especially with the Your Coffin or Mine repeat at the end. It sounds almost happy or like just very like bouncy pop punk, and it doesn't suit this album at all, I think.
The other thing is, like, I obviously mentioned that song kind of brings us back to the start thematically. There's also a feature of Skiba's songwriting on this album is a lot of, I think he hasn't really talked about it, but like I'm imagining he was dealing with some insomnia because he sings a lot about not being able to sleep. So in the first song, in This Could Be Love, there's Thinking of You, Wide Awake for Days. And then he circles back here again with that awesome closing, and I don't dream since I quit sleeping, and I haven't slept since I met you. You can't breathe without coughing at daytime, neither can I. So what do you say? Your coffin or mine? It's just like, yeah, that's cheesy.
It is, but it's like
I don't dream since I quit sleeping, and I haven't slept since I met you.
It's a great line.
Like where the album has taken you up to this point, like you already know that, but to snapshot it like that and then just end on Your Coffin or Mine. This is the last lyric my voice will ever be able to sing because I'm toast after this.
If you've never had the joy and the experience of being in a mosh pit for that song and everyone screams Your Coffin or Mine at the same time, I highly recommend doing it.
I have not done that.
An interesting thing about this record is that Skiba and Andriano have completely different views on it today.
Yes.
In 2015, for a Rank Your Records talking to Noisy, Andriano said that Good Morning is his favorite Alkaline Trio record. He said, it's a weird record. It was really hard to make. Matt had all these crazy throat problems, so it took a long time. He had to ditch out of the studio and rest for a while. So it was definitely laborious. Jerry Finn and Joe McGrath, who was engineering, I could tell they were getting frustrated. When we left after the record was done, I was excited about it. A couple of radio stations were playing that song, We've Had Enough, and we were all really proud of the record. But I never fully appreciated it like as a full album until very recently. I think there's a lot of diversity as far as what the songs are about. It's not all about love songs or weird dark songs or all sappy emo sad boy songs. There's a little bit of that horse shit though.
There sure is, buddy.
Skiba, also doing a Rank Your Records with Noisy in 2018.
Not a fan.
Ranks it as his 7th out of 8 at this time favorite album. He said, for me, it's all about the process of it and how much fun we had doing the record. I fucking hated making that record. Musically, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of all our records, but I had problems with my throat. I was living in Oakland, but we were recording in Los Angeles, so it took me a long time to get the vocals done. They had this really raspy quality, and I'm glad that people dig, but it's really hard for me to listen to because all I remember is how much of a struggle it was to get done. Luckily, I figured out what was wrong and what needed to be fixed, but at the time when I didn't know, it was the most frustrating, borderline heartbreaking time I've ever had. It's a fucking drag when the singer can't sing. It's a long day for everyone. I was throwing shit, punching holes in walls.
So that's how Skiba and Andriano felt about Good Morning. We'll talk about how everyone else, including ourselves, felt about Good Morning after this. All right, Jake. Well, I like Good Morning more than Matt Skiba does.
I do too.
I understand why he feels that way. How was it received generally? I know that there was some frustration. Joe McGrath, the engineer that you mentioned, he had talked about how they were a little frustrated because they thought it was better than the play it received.
Yeah.
It didn't get the radio. Like you mentioned, We've Had Enough was on a little bit, but there wasn't anything that like really clicked crossover wise.
Yeah, that seems to be the sort of, from the people involved, sort of the prevailing thought about it. It is the band's best-selling album to date, debuted at number 20 on the Billboard 200, which seems extremely high for an Alkaline Trio record.
Seriously.
It was pretty well received in the press. It got 4.5 stars out of 5 from AllMusic, 4 out of 5 from Drowned in Sound, 3.5 from Punk News, 3 stars in Rolling Stone, and an 8 out of 10 from Spin. But as you just mentioned, Blake, it did not cross over into the mainstream like the band and the label were hoping. Wayne Pigney, who is Vagrant Records product manager of global marketing, said, "Unfortunately, we just couldn't get the traction going at radio, and that was a slight disappointment. We were never able to cross over into a mainstream audience. Did the record end up doing great? Yes. Do we think it could have done a little better? Yes. Is that because they didn't deliver a great record? No. It's because getting records played on the radio in the US makes you want to smash your head into a brick wall." So it sounds like it just didn't happen. I feel like that's kind of always been the story of Alkaline Trio. Like they've never had that crossover appeal.
No, and it's never, and I wonder how much of it is the aesthetic elements of like, hey, here's some skeletons and some vampires, and we're gonna make ourselves look even more goth on the album covers. And that's dumb shit that is unique, or not unique to Alkaline Trio, but like it's part of Alkaline Trio and what they are. But like it should absolutely not preclude anyone from enjoying it. Like I feel like there are probably a lot of pop punk fans who maybe thought Alkaline Trio was like too gothy or too, close to AFI or whatever the hang up was.
Yeah.
Because like even the friends that I shared pop punk and emo music with, there aren't many who are Alkaline Trio fans.
Same.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me musically because it's all there. It's good. It's in the exact same wheelhouse. So there's got to be some element of that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think this time in Alkaline Trio, you can really see how hard they were working to try and break through. Like Crimson is so heavy on like the goth aesthetic, but it was also
Mercy Me was basically being like, we're having a radio hit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care what you say. We're making a pop punk song so radio friendly.
But
like,
all the aesthetics and sounds on that record are like, I don't think it's a coincidence that came out the year before Black Parade.
Right.
And after Three Cheers. Like I think they must have seen
where it was going,
or they saw Mike O'Rourke's explode. Like they saw Helena being played everywhere.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Is like they saw where the genre was going and where the tastes were going.
Totally. Like it starts with that, like Time to Waste. The first song on the record starts with that piano riff.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It worked, but
that lead up to the start of Time to Waste is so good.
So good.
Yeah. Also, like they were probably like, hey, we've been wearing eyeliner for a long time,
right?
Guys. Why is this cool now?
There was a DVD series in the early 2000s called The Show Must Go Off. It was started by, I think it was Joe Escalante from the Vandals put them out, and they were just live DVDs, and one of them is an Alkaline Trio show on Halloween, before Good Morning, after From Here to Infirmary, and they're all three of them are dressed as priests, and they have really thick black makeup around their eyes and blood coming down their mouths, and there's an upside down cross as the backdrop of the stage. It's like,
naturally,
you guys are leading real heavy on this.
Yeah.
But like, I also thought it was the coolest shit in the world when I was that age. So.
Also, because of their general aesthetic, we've teased before, like doing a game or something like that about all the references in my tattoos. They're there. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest part of that sleeve, I think, is.
I think it is.
There's a giant goddamn Alkaline Trio reference. All right, Jake. This is where, if people care about Alkaline Trio, this is where we lose them. We got to rank these albums.
I think this might be one of the first things that we like. I mean, I could be wrong because I don't know your ranking, but this could be like one of our first like very heavy disagreements.
I think we're going to have the same top two, and then from there we'll be all shuffled up.
I think so too. I mean, I think the top two Alkaline Trio records are almost undebatable. You can debate.
You can flip the
order.
order.
You can flip the order, but I think the like Good Morning and Goddammit are like, they're classics.
Yeah.
They're undeniable.
Yeah. And really, like, they almost, obviously there were two albums in between, but they pair together so well where, like, God Damn It is your intro to Alkaline Trio. And in Andriano's own words, I don't think any other band could ever make that record.
Yeah. Even though it is such a tentpole in the pop punk sound and evolution, it doesn't sound like any other band. Like, it sounds like nothing else and like nobody else.
I don't want to get too deep into Goddammit because we could very likely do a Goddammit episode at some point. But like for me, finding that album in high school, like even some of the simple ways in which they attack writing sad love songs, it's like, you know that meme of like the kid seeing the butterfly and it's like, is this?
Yeah.
It's like I heard Clavicle and I was like, is this a love song? It's like, oh, this is That's not, I didn't know that's what it was supposed to feel like and be like. And then like you have obviously San Francisco, which is a top Alkaline Trio song. Sorry About That has this great line about kind of like when you're letting someone in and you're getting intimate with someone, but you still have your walls up. The line, and we passed out in each other's arms, both admitting we'd never felt better, never felt so warm, but awoke in each other's eyes without wearing a stitch of clothing. We were both deeply in disguise.
It hasn't been that long since we drank to the sunset until it was gone. Down with it went our pain and fear as we slowly broke contact more and more with every beer, and we passed out in each other's arms, both admitting we'd never felt better, never felt so warm, but awoke in each other's eyes without wearing a stitch of clothing. We were both deeply in disguise, and maybe I just set aside the fact that you were broken hearted in my own special selfish way. And if I hadn't set aside the fact that you were broken hearted, hell knows where your heart would be today. Maybe with me, maybe with me, maybe with me.
So, do you have Good Morning one or Goddamn It one?
I have Good Morning one.
So do I.
I think
okay.
it's.
So I have those one too.
I think it's the most interesting for all the reasons we just spoke about. I think it's the most interesting. I understand that the vocals are not on purpose and are extremely painful to record, but I think they sound amazing.
Yeah. They're also, I think of all their albums, it has the fewest weak spots.
I was
a lot of their albums are, not a lot of them, but a couple of them are top heavy.
Yeah. I think the weakest song on Good Morning is probably Fatally Yours, and I kind of still like that one.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's definitely like a little throwaway song, but I kind of like it. So I have Good Morning number 1. I've Goddamn It number 2. So now the question is, what's your number 3? Because this is where it starts to get interesting.
Yes. I have From Here to Infirmary number 3.
Okay. I have Crimson at number 3.
Okay. Yeah, we feel differently about Crimson.
I have struggled with Crimson. It definitely has some spots on it that don't work, but I think the spots on it that do are more interesting than pretty much anything they've done. As you're saying, the build up to the intro of Time to Waste, even some of like the weird guitar riffs on the Poison, and like, I don't really like Mercy Me. I won't lie. I think it's too pandering to try and get a hit.
Drew Fairservice is raging right now if he's listening to this podcast.
This is not the first time I will say this about an Alkaline Trio album, but the back half of Crimson, I think, is incredibly strong. From I Was a Prayer to Prevent This Tragedy, Back to Hell is probably their best like straight punk song.
Yeah, it's up there.
Your Neck is fun, and Smoke. I mean, the closers are either Alkaline Trio albums are either closed by a Skiba acoustic tune or a amazing Adriano song, and Smoke is one of his. There's 2 good ones, and one of them is on your 3rd album, and one of them is on that one.
Yeah, I have Crimson down in 6th.
Interesting. That's where I have From Here to Infirmary.
Okay, so we got those switched. From Here to Infirmary, I feel like it's probably the one that suffers the most from what I said earlier about some of their albums being top heavy, but the top is so good.
Yeah.
Like Private Eye it's a great transition from Maybe I'll Catch Fire to like set you up. Like, as we talked about how they're kind of refining and sharpening a little bit. It's like, that is a great song to put you there. Mr. Chainsaw is good. I like that it starts. It has a really good first 4 or 5 songs. And then it almost lulls you into that Armageddon, Dying Tomorrow, Bloodied Up 3. And it's like, those are maybe not the best songs, but they're some of their best songwriting in terms of like, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's also a great Dan record.
Yeah,
his songs on that record are really, really strong.
And then Crawl is a good closer that circles back to.
I think Crawl's
kind of circles back to Private Eye.
I think Crawl's is the best Dan song.
Yeah, it closes the album well, and so I have From Here to Infirmary number 3, And here's where we get really disagree.
Yeah. So I know what your fourth is.
Why don't you go ahead first? I got a place for everyone to get mad at me.
I will say that if we were counting the self-titled B-sides collection,
This
which
would go here?
No, I would go third.
Okay.
I understand why we're not, and we're not, so that's fine. I just wanted to let that know. Fourth, Maybe I'll Catch Fire. I think to your point about how From Here to Infirmary is a great transition from Maybe I'll Catch Fire to Good Morning, I think Maybe I'll Catch Fire is a great transition from God Damn It. It's definitely a bit of an evolution of their sound without changing it too much. I also feel like it's sort of the forgotten Alkaline Trio album a little bit.
Other than Radio.
Like
everyone, Radio is like in everyone's Alkaline Trio top 5 probably.
Everyone knows Radio.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of like Keep 'Em Coming, the first track I really like, but it's sort of been like they don't play it that often.
See, I don't like Keep 'Em Coming that much.
Oh, really?
I think it's maybe their weakest opener.
I mean, yeah, it probably is, but also all their openers are all really good. But yeah, so yeah, Maybe I'll Catch Fire at 4.
I have Maybe I'll Catch Fire at number 5.
Okay.
So at number 4, why don't you just finish out your rankings?
Okay.
Because I feel like we're going to have 3 of the same ones toward the bottom.
Yeah. So I have Good Morning, God Damn It, Crimson, Maybe I'll Catch Fire. And 5th, I put Is This Thing Cursed?
I like Is This Thing Cursed?
I really like it.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. Then I have From Here to Infirmary at 6. And then I have My Shame Is True at 7, Agony and Irony at 8, and This Addiction at 9.
So we agree on This Addiction. I have My Shame Is True at 8. I would say This Addiction is the only album of theirs that's like completely forgettable.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't love My Shame Is True. I don't know if I draw the line before or after My Shame Is True in terms of like these are the good Alkaline Trio albums.
I think My Shame
sorry, not good because that's subjective, but
I think
the ones that I like My Shame Is True is right on the border of like I don't go back to it much.
I kind of agree. I do think that some of its best songs I think hold up well in the rest of the catalog, but I also think there's only like 3 or 4 of those on the record. So it's kind of you could also talk me into, depending on the day, that the 7-8 spot there being flipped at any given time.
So I have Is This Thing Cursed at number 7. I think it's really good. I like it a lot. They just have 7 really good albums. At number 4, I have Agony and Irony, which everyone gets mad at me for. It is probably my hottest take that I've put on the podcast so far.
It's okay. Next week you'll get mine.
So Agony and Irony is a great example of how when an album finds you and what your associations to it are can determine long-term how much you like it. Now, in some cases, you know, just how good an album is can win out, right? Or if an album's bad, like if you have a favorite band that has 3 really good albums, but one's the clear best one, and you were more attached to another one, like over time, I could see the one that's the best one overtaking that. In this case, we're talking about the number 4 ranking. Like I go back to Agony and Irony, and I'm immediately taken to my room in my dad's place, being like right after university, and the girl I was dating had just cheated on me with one of my friends.
Oh, that's always nice.
And I was like holed up in my room playing NBA 2K. And it was like the first NBA 2K I'd ever gotten where you can like do my career. So here's my like 5'11" scrappy point guard who only plays defensive passes and refuses to shoot. I'm just like a week straight of playing this album and doing that. And it was because I'm from not a small town, but like a small-ish town where everyone rolls in small circles. I still had to be around those people all the time. So a song as cheesy and dumb as Love, Love, Kiss, Kiss, at that point in time, I was like, you know what? It is hard enough to spend drink another winter all alone. And I don't want to see you being cuddly and lovey in front of me.
Take a look, you see, I painted you a picture. It's black and white, except the blood's a little richer. Down in the corner where I gave it my signature, and then I titled it, This One's for the Winter. Check it out, you see, it's just a big disaster. I'm dedicated to the fact that it's so hard for you to dream. A million heartbeats all around you make it hard to sleep. It doesn't help you freezing in your bed, your blankets on and up. All
I think that album for me, the reason I don't like it is it came out.
It's because it's pretty cheesy.
Yeah, it came out at a time for me too. Like I don't dislike this album as much as I think I used to. To your point, it is actually probably in my 7th, and to your point, they have 7 really good albums.
Yeah.
So
And it's like, I get it. It's a little too sugary. It's a little too on the pop side. And then like even lyrically, they get away from some of their best songwriting when it's like, I'm in pain and I'm going to darkly laugh through it. This way, it's just a little more like, I don't know. It's just a little poppier, I guess, like lyrically too.
I will say the last 3 songs of Lost and Rendered, Ruin It, and Into the Night, a great back 3.
Yeah. I also think I Found a Way is a really good song. There's also the line on Do You Want to Know? Don't leave me out with these mosquitoes. They'll try to drink up all my wine. And it's just like, I don't know why I like that line so much. I think it's cute. Look, time heals wounds. It's no longer that I listen to that album and I'm like, oh, I'm super sad that happened. Now I listen to that album. I'm like, I really appreciate that this album was there in that moment.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
I wonder how my guy in my career is doing. I think I only played like 10 games probably. So we both have Good Morning number 1, which is a fortunate thing to agree on. Are we going to agree on which song we're picking for the mixtape?
I think so. I think because I was originally gonna say All in Black because it was my favorite Alkaline Trio song when I was younger. But I think when I think of this record, the first song that comes to mind is the first song on the record, which is This Could Be Love, which we could be here all day debating our top 5 Alkaline Trio songs.
Which maybe we'll do on a different, because if we do another Alkaline Trio episode, we can't just rank albums.
That's true.
We'll do a top 5 Alkaline Trio songs.
We'd be here for days. But I think that's
not if it's a top 5.
It could be a while.
Yeah.
But I think that's unquestionably in both of our top 5s. And I think it's just, if someone says to me, Alkaline Trio, Good Morning, immediately I go to that song.
Yes. I don't know if I should share this because I've talked before about my Blink-182 rock opera that has not picked up steam because I don't have room for another project. But I've had an idea in my head before, not an idea. I've messed around. I've never shown anyone them. I've messed around with short stories a little bit. And I kind of have this idea in my head of like mystery built around what's going on in this song. And then I was like, could you just do like a series of short stories based on pop punk songs? And I'm like, you absolutely could.
Definitely could.
I was going to do a Blink-182 rock opera. I still might. The spreadsheet still exists.
Got to do it.
I got to expand the song base now because 9 is out.
That's true.
So we'll talk about that soon. Anyway, I feel like you could make like a cool little, I don't know, the imagery in that song is just,
it's very striking.
Yeah. I like it. I feel like you could build I think you could build a short story around like an interesting, even if it was like an anthology, like TV episode or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. I
story-wise.
agree with you.
And I know it's just a song about like a girl hurting you, but
it's a great song.
Yeah.
And so I think that's my pick.
The like going down to the lake to like wash the blood off of you is, yeah.
Stop at Berkeley Marina.
Anyway, I shouldn't talk about any of this stuff.
No, it's great. I love it.
No, my brain needs to stop.
It makes us relatable.
My brain needs to stop.
It does.
Coming up with new things for me to do.
You do need to take a break and just have a sit.
Yeah.
One day. Just take a day
Stop
off.
using my downtime on side projects. Okay. This Could Be Love. Going on the mixtape. As we pivot to next week.
Next week, we're doing Matt Skiba and the Secrets.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing cuts.
It's so weird that Matt Skiba's other side project, is Secrets with a K.
Yes.
And then Tom DeLonge's book about aliens is Secret Machines with a K. And I so desperately want to know if that was a shot. Like if DeLonge was taking a shot at Skiba by titling his book Secret with a K. Otherwise, why? Why would they both do that?
Seems petty enough for DeLonge.
Yeah, like I get why Skiba did it, I guess, because of the SK in his name.
It's called Cuts.
Yeah.
It's Cuts with a K. All the song titles in that album have Ks in them.
Yeah. All right, guys.
We should get out of here before we take this.